Okay. All right, so we have people from different parts of the world. Pardon me if I got a bit nervous. This is the first time for me to present a research, as the gentleman here mentioned that I'm a newly graduate. So basically, this is the first research for me. If there is any mistake, any recommendation, I'll be open to all your advice and questions and whatever you want. Thank you so much. All right, so let's start. I don't want to waste your time or the time of anyone. Let's do it as fast as possible. This research was initially an MA research, and these days I'm publishing it as a regular research in Tesol, Kuwait. The title of this presentation is An Investigation into Instructors' Perceptions of L1 Use in EFL Context. Before I start, as the gentleman mentioned, I am in Kuwait right now, but that research was conducted in Turkey. So you will see literature from Turkish authors, context in Turkey, Istanbul, and most of the information about Turkey. All right, what I'm going to talk about in in this presentation, we will start first with the introduction. Then we will move on to the literature review to talk about the literature that helped me in this research. Moving to the methodology, how the research was conducted. Then the results of the research, and finally with discussion and conclusion. So first thing first, to be or not to be. This is our friend Shakespeare. But in this research, to use L1 in the classroom or not to use L1, that's the question. Just here, this one. Yeah, I don't see. Yeah, I can see right now. Many individuals around the world, and let's say specifically who wish to obtain better profession or acquire a good education, believe learning English is crucial. And due to due to the continuing discussion, the mother tongue role in teaching English as a second language is being reviewed and reevaluated all the time. There is always two sides for any points we are talking about. The first side, which we are talking about L1 use in the classroom, those who believe that L1 by students should have some freedom in language lessons for a more productive or educational environment, according to Oz and Karzmak, Tachi, Atach 2020, Dilacamp and Isaji 2009. On the other hand, there are some people or authors, researchers who believe that contending that speaking in one's native language inhibits learning by limiting the opportunities to speak the target language in the classroom. And some of the research who talk about this is Cook 2001, Fernandez 2015, Mehmetoglu and Kichir 2013. The L1 use supporters assert that L1 can assist learners in learning English as a foreign language in a variety of ways that we will talk about in the literature. On the other hand, the people who disagree with this believe that limiting the use of the target language is one of the reasons that they don't prefer to use L1 in the classroom. The problem of this topic that we want to talk about is, is the use of L1 in the L2 classroom, or basically the transition between languages which require more attention. Another reason why this is a problem, because in Turkey specifically, there is a little emphasis on L1 use in EFL context, especially the context or the sample that I choose already in this research, which I will explain further in the methodology part. Let me just move things around. Okay, therefore, let me just, thank you. Yeah, again, The objective of the study is simply to investigate EFL prep school instructors' perception of L1 use. Prep school is, I think, limited to Turkey. It is the English foundation level. It depends on each country how it's called. In Kuwait, for example, it's called English Foundation. In Turkey, it's called prep school. I think in the USA, it's called second language learning. I'm not sure about this, but this is what I have read about. So just keep in mind that it is the level before joining your major at university. Okay, go ahead. Yeah. When I was writing the research, I ended up with these 4 questions. The first one is, what are the perceptions of EFL preparatory school instructors toward using students L1? The second one was, what are the perceptions of EFL preparatory school instructors towards students using their L1? Number 3, do the perceptions of EFL preparatory school instructors regarding using students L1 differ according to their gender, teaching experience, their degree, teaching certificate, mother tongue, and finally, the type of university? And the last question was, do the perceptions of EFL preparatory school instructors regarding the students' use of L1 differ according to the same variables: gender, teaching experience, degree, teaching certificate, mother tongue, and the type of university? If you can notice here that the first question and the third question are connected to each other, the second and fourth are connected. So in the results, we will talk about them accordingly. Okay. Yeah. When we are talking about L1 and L2 use, we have to mention multilingualism and bilingualism. And it's simply an ability of an individual to speak 2 or more languages, or it could be referred to the use of languages in a society, according to CNOS 2013. And L1, L2, we have for sure to mention English medium instruction, or English as a medium of instruction, or as it's called EMI, which has expanded a lot or tremendously in the university education field around the globe, as globalization itself has been a top concern for universities which seeking to broaden their colleges, strengthen their academic and study system, draw global professors and global students. And when we say 2 languages, multilingualism, and so on, we have to mention the history of using L1 and L2. The position of native language itself in bilingual education schools has long been a source of contention. Let's say centuries ago, it was recognized to use the native language to study the target language. The global norm of bilingual education was translation, simply, between the native and the target language. After a long period of translation, many teaching methods emerged as, just one thing. No. Yes, as, for example, grammar translation method. In this technique, let's say, the teacher focused primarily on content translation, grammar structures between L1 and L2, memorization of lexical items, and innumerable verbs and tenses, but it's mainly focused on L1 and L2. There are also a direct method, audiolingual method, suggestipedia or desuggestipedia, comprehension approach, balanced approach. All of these approaches talk about the use of L1 while teaching L2 or the target language. This actually led us to an essential part of the presentation, the role of students L1 in the classroom, or let's say specifically EL or English classrooms. We can say that an individual's first language serves as an opening stage for L2 learning. We all remember our first day at school, and when the English teacher was teaching us, they used Arabic or whatever the language is in your country. as an asset or an aid to our English learning, because they believe that the first language generate processes more and it is more involved with L2 learning standards. As a result of this, it was proposed that the initial stages of the inter-language itself might prefer the native language more than the later phases of language knowledge, because once you step or move further and or advance in the level of learning a language, the native language could be a barrier in the language learning, and it could stop the target language development. Moving, okay, I think I missed this presentation. Yes. Yeah, it's working now. So the traditional approach of researching languages, L1 and L2, or how many languages, it's used in the classroom was simply dealing with each language as a single part. So L1, L2, L3 as single entities. However, the modern focus on multilingualism and bilingualism observes the link between languages rather than separating them aside. Some of the modern multilingualism approaches are translanguaging, code switching, and code mixing. Translation is a part of it, but still it's an old method, so it's not recommended or not regarded as a modern approach. Okay, let's stay here. Let me just explain these concepts quickly: code switching, code mixing, and translanguaging. Code mixing is blending of two or many languages in conversation by bilingual people or multilingual people, typically without no shift of speaker or subject. So it's one speaker changing between two or more languages. However, code switching is a practice of parties in a discourse to signal change in context by using alternate grammar systems or subsystems. So there is a thin line between code switching and code mixing. The last one, which is my favorite, and I would like to research more about it, it's called translanguaging. I don't know if you heard about this term before. It's not too old or too young, but it's interesting. Translanguaging is the sole distinction that we can see is that translanguaging, a language education strategy that involves systematically combining various languages in one educational session, according to Sinos and Gorter. And someone, I think they also mentioned, it's called using the full student's repertoire. We don't see students speaking L1, L2, L3. We see them as one student speaking a global language. To end up this literature, we have to mention the reasons, again, why do they support L1 use, and why do they, or why are they against L1 use? The support, because they get the impression that learning another language is a rewarding process, so they don't, or the students themselves don't have to feel guilty for doing what comes naturally to them, since they have a great resource to support them, which is their L1. The researcher or scholars who are against this topic believe that students who rely too much on their mother language lose confidence in their ability to communicate, especially in English, and it allows them to have less opportunities for students to practice English. This is what I'm struggling with my students these days. I speak English with them, but they prefer to use Arabic, and they rely on it too much. So it's kind of problematic. And I believe if you teach English as a second or foreign language, you will have the same difficulty. Moving on to the methodology. Please work. Yes, it's working. First, I'll start with the research design. According to Crosswell 2009, study design is the theoretical framework within which the study is carried out. In this sense, the framework of the studies can be thought as the adhesive that collects or retains all the components in a study project. In brief, it's just a strategy how the study should be employed. The study or the research that was that is presented here right now was conducted using mixed method, convergent parallel design, and this design it's regarded the third methodological part or trend in quantitative and qualitative research, and it's meant to collect both quantitative and qualitative data at the same time. So the quantitative and qualitative, and after that we have the analysis of both of them simultaneously. So they are not separated at all. The setting and participant. Firstly, yes. Let me mute Mr. Hassan. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think it's working. Yeah. Go back. Yeah, it's already. So the setting we started, or the research was actually initially conducted in Istanbul. The setting was 51 state and foundation universities there. The participants were selected using simple random sampling. From these 51 universities, I focused on EFL prep schools, foundation schools, or the schools which are before going to the majors. From these 51 universities, we managed to collect 262 instructors from only 40 universities. Some of the universities were excluded because they don't have foundation school or because they are way away from the center of the city, so it was difficult to reach them. Okay. The data collection tool that was used in this study was teachers' attitudes towards translanguaging survey. Actually, initially it's called L1 survey, not translanguaging. There's a mistake here, by Brian McMillan and Damian Rivers, 2011. The procedure was simple at that time. We received the permission from the author of the survey. Then we extracted the names of universities in Istanbul from YOK, which means in English, Ministry of Higher Education. We created the survey using Google document and we distributed using emails and QR code. I managed to visit some universities regarding of COVID-19 regulation. Following with this, the data analysis project or procedure. Just move the names here for a second. Yeah. Firstly, with the qualitative data, as or fortunately, I am a novice researcher. I did the qualitative analysis using grounded theory, and grounded theory is a great asset or an aid for novice researchers who are planning to start their research because it's simple and to the point, and it is available for the beginners. However, with the quantitative data, we used SPSS 22. And with this, we made three major analyses: simple percentage analysis, independent sample t-test, and ANOVA. And after that, for ANOVA, we had a t-test, we had post-hoc to see which of these had the major differences, or which of the variables that I mentioned at the beginning had the differences. Okay, yes, for the validity of and reliability of this research, the first thing that we had is the Cronbach alpha. Most of the questions in the survey had a high percentage, as you can see in the table on the left. We have 0 or minimum 0.84 and the maximum is 0.92. Usually in research, if you want to have a valid research, you should have at least 0.7 to have valid results. And also we checked the standard deviation for all the questions. If the standard deviation also between 0.2 and 1.8 means that the data is valid now. For the reliability, I had my supervisors who will help me in my thesis, plus an academic, a person who had a PhD in data analysis, helped me and revised the data that I obtained and analyzed using SPSS. Going to the result, which is I believe is the boring part of the research. And as we mentioned at the beginning, 4 research questions, first and third are connected, second and fourth are connected. So in this survey, the questions are the following. Let me explain the results that we got. Let me just move this thing here. Yeah. Okay. So the first research question was, what is the primary medium of instruction in your school? And most of the answers showed that it was English. The second question was, what is the primary language of instruction in the classroom? Again, the majority of instructors mentioned that it was English. And the final question, do you believe the use of students' native language is beneficial in English language classroom? The surprising answer is that they believe it is beneficial, but we will see with the results how it's going on. This question 5 of the survey regarding the first research question. We are still now in the first research question. These are the subscales that we had in the survey questions. So the first one is to explain concept, using L1 to explain concept, 2, describe vocabulary, give directions, number 3, 4, classroom management, 5, give feedback to students, 6, praise students, number 7, build bonds with students, 8, quickly clarify during activities, and 9, help low proficiency students. Looking at the results here, when we see the mean and standard deviation, we could see clearly that most of the answers were negative, even though that the teachers mentioned it's beneficial, except and to build bonds with students and to help low proficiency students. If we continue also with number 7, which is also connected to the, let me just, yes. Sorry, it's difficult to deal with this. Yeah, let me go back. Yeah. So question number 7 is also related to our research question number 1. But here, how important is it for teachers to use students' native language in the following situation? So the first one, do they use it or not? Here, how important is it? And again, the same situation. The results show it is negative. However, question number 7, subscale 7 and 9 shows that it is the one that's used, which correlate with question number 5 of the survey. So the teacher used students' first language to build bonds with students and to help low proficiency students. For the research question 2, what are the perceptions of EFL preparatory school instructors toward the students' use of L1? Now, here we have question survey 4 and 6, and actually subscales, not questions. So as you can see, we have for each subscale seven subscales. Discuss content or activities, number 1. Number 2, provide assistance to peers. 3, brainstorm during class activities. 4, explain problems. 5, enable participation by low proficiency students. Number 6, respond to teachers' questions. And 7, ask permissions. From this table, we can clearly see the one with the red circle that teachers allow students to use their L1 in 2 options only. First is to explain problems not related to the content or the target language that is used in the classroom. The second one is to enable participation by lower proficiency students. And when we follow up again with the second subscale that we have here, it's following the same as the previous one. Yeah. Let's have a look at number 2 and 5 and 6. But basically the one that is correlating with the previous one is number 6, to enable participation by lower proficiency students. This one is how important do they believe that students using their L1, but the previous one, when do they allow it or not? So the results are connected in question number 6 only, to enable the participation by lower proficiency students. Okay, so these are research question 1 and research question 2. This is the analysis of the grounded theory analysis, or for the qualitative data. We start with open coding, then moving on to Excel coding, and finally finish with a core category, the reason why they're doing this. The open coding, we had bonding with students, as it's mentioned in the subscales. We had emergencies, talking to students about emergencies, difficulties in the classroom, peer collaboration, skills in English, like grammar and vocabulary mainly, as these are the one that's most difficult for EFL students, classroom activities, and time management according to teacher responses. These 7 categories were ended up in 2. The first one was relationship with students, and number 2, classroom management. The overall result came up that is the use of L1 is just a bridge to overcome issues that happen in the classroom, either related to the target language or related to the students themselves. Okay, yes. Now moving on to the third research question. Do the perceptions of EFL preparatory school instructors regarding using students L1 differ according to these 6 variables: gender, teaching experience, degree, teaching certificate, mother tongue, and type of university? According, just let me explain something very quickly, that when we have a variable that has 2 options like gender, we are going to do t-test, but when we have a variable that has many options like degree or teaching certificate, we are going to conduct a ANOVA test. In this one, the result shows that there is a differences between teachers' education level, native and non-natives, years of experience, and state and foundation universities. When we conducted post hoc analysis, we could find that teachers with a bachelor, master's, and PhD differ in their use of L1, plus teachers who have 1 to 5 years experience, 6 to 10, and the last one is, let me see it, 16 to 20 years experience are the teachers or instructors who differ in their use of L1 in the classroom. The last research question, okay, I'm sorry, we still at research 3. Do the perceptions of EFL preparatory school instructors regarding using students L1 differ according again to the same variables? So here the difference was only to the years of experience and state and foundation universities. And when we do a postdoc for them, we will see that teachers with 1 to 5 years of experience, 6 to 10, and again 16 to 20. For educational level, it's limited and it's only for bachelor and master's degree holders. Finally, with the results of the research question 4, do the perceptions of EFL preparatory school instructors regarding the students' use of L1 differ according to their, again, the same variables? When you look at this, there are only 2 differences between the years of experience, state and foundation universities only. And when we see the post hoc of them for only years of experience, again, the same categories, teachers or instructors with 1 to 5 years of experience, 6 to 10 years of experience, and finally 16 to 20 years of experience. The last thing we have to mention here, again, do the perceptions of EFL preparatory school instructors regarding the students' use of L1 differ according to their gender, teaching experience, degree, certificate, and these variables? The same thing, years of experience, state and foundation university. And yes, the postdoc again showing the same result for the same categories. These years of experience or teachers with these years of experience are always differing in their use of L1. To conclude this research or with discussion and conclusion, for the first research question, again, just to repeat the basics, the aim of the study was to investigate perceptions of EFL preparatory school instructors using L1 in state and foundation universities in Istanbul. At the beginning of the results, we figured out that instructors had a positive attitudes or perceptions towards using L1, but the other results showed that their opinions are negative towards the employment of students in L1, which is similar to Changraha 2011 similar research in Turkey. They used L1, but that usage was very cautious and in a small sample, which aligned with Oz and Karazmak 2019, Delekamp and Nasaj 2009, and Kianrada 2016, plus Cook 2001. All of these research talked about how instructors in Turkey are limiting their use of L1 in the classroom. Finally, the results of the open-ended could be realized in 3 different points: is to bond with students, help low proficiency students, and sometimes quickly explaining during activities. For the research question 2, okay. So as we've seen in the results, some of the instructors believe that employment of mother tongue is useful in some specific situations, but a large percentage of instructors believe that it was beneficial for low-level students to participate or explaining something not related to the content of this lesson. Some of these research, like UiPan 2019, also Caesar 2022 in Turkey, and Macmillan and River in the UK. Yeah, this one is important. Moving to question 3. Because of the third question, there are limited number of research that is talking about these variables that I had in my research. So when the results or the discussion that I have is based on my own analysis of the results. When we compared the variables, all variables that we have, we had like novel finding about the L1 use in the classroom. However, these findings are not supported a lot in literature, as they do not really exist in Turkey. Most of the instructors utilizing students L1, of course, are totally different from instructors who are speaking English as their native language, according to Baker and Karaj in 2015. And when we are talking about gender in this research, there was totally no difference between males and females, which is contradicting At-Tarangwa and Mithqal 2019 research in Saudi Arabia. For the last research question, there was only limited differences between years of experience and state and foundation universities. These minor differences is just about how the instructors believe the students' use of L1 is important. So the instructors' perceptions about this is differing all the time, which is in line with Tuscan 2011. Plus, sometimes their degree can distinguish their use of L1 in the classroom. This research by Burat and Çavuşoğlu in 2020 in universities in Istanbul. Finally, was the last thing, instructors working in state universities showed differences, as we mentioned, in allowing students to use their native language in the classroom, according to Ozier 2021 research in Turkey again. To sum up everything quickly, where is it? Yeah, so English as a medium of instruction and the use of L1, L2 is a debating topic. Studying native language is in classes, no matter where it is, it's limited use according to the AMI method or approach because of L1 and L2 classroom. More in-depth and precise investigation are required all the time in all the contexts available. And in one of the limitations that we had in this research, that we only distributed a survey due to COVID-19 regulations back at that time in Turkey. So observations and interviews or semi-interviews with the teachers could help to have novel approaches that may emerge from these contexts. Hopefully, I was not overwhelming you with this research. That's end for me. Thank you for listening. If there are any questions or recommendation and advice, I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adel, for the informative
Thank you so much.
presentation.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Anyone wants to ask Mr. Adel any question about using L1 in the language classroom?
Please don't ask. If there is any recommendation, I'll be really happy to receive your feedback. As I told you in the beginning, it's just a beginning for me. Thank you so much. Enough, I think. Thank you everyone for your support. I think that's everything for us.
Thank you very much for attending, guys. Yes, thank you very much. We just have now the last keynote speaker, Dr. Darren Parrott from Cambridge Press and Assessment. And we will be ending our first day of the conference 2023. Thank you everyone for attending, and thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Adel,
so much.
for the informative presentation.
You're most welcome.
Thank you very much. And let's go to Dr. Darren Parrott for the last keynote speech.